The sun bleeds crimson across Manhattan's glass towers as two executives stand at the precipice of their separate worlds. It's October 2008, and the global financial markets have just witnessed their worst crash since the Great Depression. These two individuals, separated by just a few city blocks, are about to demonstrate a profound lesson in the psychology of wealth that the ancient Stoics understood over 2 millennia ago. The first executive paces frantically, his expensive watch catching the dying sunlight as he clutches his head in despair. His entire identity, the penthouse, the status, the carefully curated image of success, seems to be crumbling along with his investment portfolio. In his mind, he's not just losing money, he's losing himself. But across town, the second executive stands perfectly still, her posture relaxed yet dignified. Despite seeing similar losses in her portfolio, her mind remains as unshakable as a mountain. She understands something that most people never grasp. True wealth isn't measured by the numbers in your bank account, but by the strength of your mind. This isn't just another story about money management or investment strategy. This is about something far more valuable, an ancient wisdom that can transform your relationship with wealth forever. The Stoic philosophers, those practical psychologists of antiquity, developed an iron psychology around money and success that's more relevant today than ever before. In the next few minutes, you'll discover why billionaires like Warren Buffett unknowingly echo Stoic principles in their approach to wealth, how ancient wisdom can protect your mental well-being in times of financial turmoil, and most importantly, how to develop an unshakable mindset that no market crash can touch. Welcome to the iron psychology of wealth, where ancient wisdom meets modern prosperity. The Stoic paradox of wealth. History has gifted us an intriguing paradox. Some of the most profound teachings about detachment from wealth came from one of Rome's wealthiest men. Seneca, advisor to emperors and one of history's most influential Stoic philosophers, lived in opulent luxury while preaching the virtues of poverty. This apparent contradiction holds the first key to understanding the Stoic approach to wealth, one that could revolutionize how you think about money forever. Imagine walking through Seneca's lavish villa, its marble halls echoing with the footsteps of Rome's elite. Yet here, amidst all this splendor, sits a man who writes, "It is not the man who has too little who is poor, but the one who hankers after more." This wasn't mere hypocrisy, as his critics claimed. Instead, Seneca was embodying a sophisticated psychological approach to wealth that modern science is only beginning to validate. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology has spent decades proving. Human adaptation is remarkably resilient, yet also perpetually unsatisfied. They called this the hedonic treadmill, though they used different terms. Every new level of wealth you achieve, every material goal you reach, becomes your new normal with stunning speed. That promotion you dreamed about, once achieved, it becomes mundane within months. That dream house? Soon, it's just the place where you live. But rather than seeing this as a curse, the Stoics recognized it as an opportunity for profound psychological freedom. They developed the revolutionary concept of preferred indifference, things that are naturally preferred but not necessary. For genuine happiness, wealth, in their view, was like a good singing voice or physical beauty, pleasant to have, but not essential for a life well lived. Marcus Aurelius, who sat on the throne of the most powerful empire in the world, wrote in his private journals about treating gold as no different from stones on the ground. This wasn't about denying wealth's practical value. The Stoics were far too practical for that. Instead, it was about developing an internal fortress that no financial circumstance could breach. Think about the last time you checked your investment, portfolio, or bank balance. Did the numbers affect your mood? Did they change how you felt about yourself, even for a moment? The Stoics would argue that this reaction reveals not a financial truth, but a psychological vulnerability. They understood that money's power over our emotions comes not from money itself, but from our judgments about what money means. This brings us to the central paradox of Stoic wealth psychology. They advocate pursuing prosperity while simultaneously practicing poverty. Musonius Rufus, another wealthy Stoic teacher, recommended periodic practices of voluntary hardship, sleeping on the ground, wearing simple clothes, eating plain food, not because these things were virtuous in themselves, but because they freed the mind from the terror of losing wealth. Consider this. What if you could pursue financial success with all your skill and energy while remaining genuinely undisturbed by the possibility of losing it all? This isn't just philosophical theory. It's a practical psychological advantage that has helped countless modern leaders maintain clarity in times of financial chaos. The beginning of true financial wisdom, the Stoics would argue, isn't found in investment strategies or money management techniques, though these have their place. It begins with a fundamental shift in how we see wealth itself. And this shift, as we're about to discover, holds the power to transform not just your bank account, but your entire relationship with the material world. Mental fortitude in financial matters. Building on our exploration of the Stoic paradox of wealth, let's delve into the practical techniques these ancient philosophers developed for maintaining mental fortitude in financial matters. Techniques that feel almost prophetic in our volatile economic age. Imagine standing in the heart of Wall Street during a market crash. Screens flash red, traders shout in panic, and millions evaporate with each passing second. In this chaos, your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind screams for action. Precisely this moment, is where Stoic wisdom becomes not just philosophy, but psychological armor. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become one of history's greatest philosophical teachers, offered a deceptively simple yet powerful technique: the practice of premeditation. When you're going to take on a leadership role, he taught, prepare yourself to face mockery, prepare for people to laugh at you, prepare for them to say, he suddenly shows up playing the philosopher. Today, we might translate this to, when you're going to invest in the market, prepare for crashes. When you're going to build a business, prepare for failures. When you're going to pursue wealth, prepare for loss. But this isn't mere pessimism, it's psychological vaccination. Modern neuroscience has revealed that the brain's fear center, the amygdala, responds less intensely to negative events we've mentally rehearsed. The Stoics discovered this truth through observation and practice. What we've contemplated in advance rarely traumatizes us in reality. Consider how this applies to your own financial life. When was the last time you sat down and truly contemplated not just the possibility of financial loss, but your specific response to it? Most people avoid such thoughts, considering them negative. But the Stoics would argue that this avoidance creates psychological fragility. They developed a systematic approach to building financial resilience. First, they practiced regular gratitude for what they already possessed, not as a feel-good exercise, but as a psychological shield against the endless desires of the hedonic treadmill. Marcus Aurelius would start each day by reminding himself that all he had could be lost, and that this loss wouldn't diminish his capacity for virtue or happiness. Second, they maintained what modern psychologists might call a dual awareness, fully engaging in the pursuit of wealth while maintaining conscious distance from it. Imagine holding an egg, grip too tightly, and you crush it, too loosely, and you drop it. The right grip comes from understanding exactly what the egg is: fragile, temporary, useful but not essential. This brings us to perhaps their most powerful technique: the constant practice of distinguishing between what we can and cannot control in our financial lives. Market movements? Not in our control. Political changes affecting the economy? Not in our control. Our skills, our efforts, our responses to challenges? These we can control. But here's where the Stoics truly revolutionize our approach to financial psychology. They taught that this distinction shouldn't lead to passive acceptance of circumstances, but rather to focused, purposeful action in the areas where we do have influence. They weren't advocating for withdrawal from the material world. They were teaching mastery over our relationship with it. Think of it as developing a financial consciousness that operates on two levels simultaneously, fully engaged in the practical pursuit of prosperity, yet fundamentally unattached to the outcomes. This isn't just philosophy. It's psychological leverage that can transform your entire approach to wealth building. As we'll explore next, this dual consciousness opens up possibilities for prosperity that most people never discover, precisely because they're too emotionally entangled with money to see clearly the true nature of prosperity. In our modern culture, prosperity often comes dressed in predictable symbols: the luxury car, the beachfront property, the exclusive club membership. But the Stoics would look at our obsession with these external markers of wealth with a knowing smile. They understood something that we, despite all our technological advancement, seem to have forgotten. True prosperity begins in the mind. Consider for a moment how many genuinely wealthy people you know who are perpetually anxious about money. They check their portfolio hourly, compare themselves constantly to others who have more, and live in fear of losing what they've accumulated. The Stoics would argue that such people, regardless of their net worth, are actually living in poverty, not of resources, but of mind. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, taught in the painted porch of Athens that true wealth lies in our needs being met with contentment. But he went further, suggesting that the fewer needs we have, the wealthier we become. This isn't about embracing poverty, it's about mastering the psychology of enough. In today's terms, imagine having the clarity to know exactly when your wealth serves you versus when you've begun serving your wealth. The Roman Stoic Musonius Rufus, despite his own considerable wealth, taught that luxury makes people weak and soft, while the ability to live well with less makes them strong and resilient. He wasn't advocating for asceticism, but rather for a kind of psychological independence from material comfort that creates true freedom. Think about it. Who is wealthier? The person who needs a 5-star hotel to feel content, or the person who can be happy in any circumstance? But here's where the Stoic vision of prosperity becomes truly revolutionary for our times. They understood that genuine wealth includes the ability to lose everything material while maintaining your essential self intact. In our era of economic volatility, imagine having such psychological security that no market crash could touch your inner sense of worth or well-being. The Stoics developed practical methods for building this kind of internal prosperity. They recommended regular practices of voluntary discomfort, not as punishment, but as training in psychological freedom. A modern interpretation might look like occasionally fasting from luxury, perhaps spending a weekend without modern conveniences, or deliberately choosing the economy option when you could afford first class. These weren't exercises in self-denial, but rather in self-discovery. Each practice of voluntary simplicity builds what we might call psychological capital, a form of wealth that no market can crash, no theft can take, no inflation can erode. This internal fortress of tranquility becomes the foundation for all external success. Modern research in positive psychology has begun to validate what the Stoics knew centuries ago: that beyond a moderate level of comfort, additional material wealth has diminishing returns on happiness. But the Stoics went further, showing how this understanding could be leveraged into a kind of superpower in the realm of wealth creation. When you're genuinely unattached to outcomes, when your sense of self isn't tied to your net worth, you make better financial decisions. You can take calculated risks without emotional interference. You can walk away from bad deals that others might cling to out of fear or pride. You can see opportunities that others miss because they're too busy protecting what they already have. This brings us to a profound truth about prosperity that the Stoics understood. True wealth is not just about accumulation, but about relationship. Your relationship with money, with success, with status, and ultimately with yourself. They would argue that getting this relationship right is the foundation of all genuine prosperity. As we move into our final section, we'll explore how to translate these profound insights into practical actions in our modern world, where the pressures of consumption and comparison have never been more intense. Practical wisdom for modern life. Think of your relationship with money as a garden. Most people scatter seeds of ambition everywhere, chasing every opportunity, responding to every market movement, and becoming exhausted in the process. The Stoic approach is more like a master gardener who knows exactly where to invest their energy, what to nurture, and perhaps most importantly, what to prune. Let's translate Stoic principles into concrete practices for modern wealth building. First, consider the morning routine of a Stoic investor. Before checking any market updates or financial news, they engage in a brief but powerful mental exercise. They remind themselves that today's numbers, whatever they may be, don't define their worth or determine their happiness. This isn't positive thinking, it's psychological positioning, creating space between stimulus and response. Modern research in behavioral finance has shown that most investment mistakes come from emotional reactions to market events. The Stoics understood this. Millennia ago, they would advise creating what we might call a financial philosophy statement, a written document outlining your principles for handling money, created during calm times to guide you through turbulent ones. This isn't just a financial plan. It's a psychological anchor. Consider implementing what we might call the Seneca Review, a monthly practice where you deliberately contemplate the loss of specific assets or income sources. For each one, ask yourself, how would I adapt? What opportunities might this create? What core strengths would remain? This isn't an exercise in anxiety, but in building anti-fragility, becoming stronger through exposure to potential stress. The Stoics would also advocate for what modern psychologists call values-based spending. Before any significant financial decision, ask yourself 3 questions. Does this align with my principles? Am I buying this for myself or for others? Opinions? Will this purchase add complexity or simplicity to my life? This practice alone can transform your relationship with consumption. But perhaps the most powerful Stoic practice for modern wealth building is the cultivation of what they called indifference to outcomes, not apathy, but a deep acceptance. That results often lie outside our control. In practical terms, this means focusing intensely on process over outcome. In investing, this might mean developing a solid strategy and sticking to it regardless of shorter market movements. In business, it means focusing on delivering value rather than obsessing over competitors. The Stoics would particularly emphasize the importance of developing multiple sources of satisfaction in life. When your sense of success isn't solely tied to financial metrics, you become a better steward of wealth. This might mean cultivating relationships, developing skills, or contributing to your community, creating a portfolio of well-being that's as diversified as your financial portfolio. Consider also the Stoic approach to opportunity. While others chase every promising investment or business opportunity, the Stoic practitioner asks deeper questions. Will this opportunity cost me my tranquility? Will it compromise my principles? Will it make me more or less independent? These questions often lead to counterintuitive but wise decisions. One practical technique is what we might call the Marcus Aurelius meditation, regularly reminding yourself of the temporary nature of all material success, not to diminish achievement, but to put it in proper perspective. This creates psychological advantage. When you're less attached to success, you're often more likely to achieve it. In our age of social media and constant comparison, the Stoic practice of staying focused on your own path is more valuable than ever. They would advise creating clear boundaries around information consumption, perhaps checking financial accounts on a fixed schedule rather than constantly or limiting exposure to financial news to specific times. Remember, the goal isn't to become indifferent to wealth, but to develop a relationship with it that serves rather than enslaves. This is the ultimate Stoic lesson about prosperity. True wealth is having enough while being untouched by having more or less. As we conclude this exploration of Stoic wealth psychology, ask yourself, what would change in your life if you could? Pursue success with all your energy while remaining genuinely peaceful about the outcome. This is the gift of Stoic wisdom, not just a philosophy of wealth, but a pathway to lasting prosperity in its truest sense. As the sun sets on our exploration of Stoic wealth psychology, we return to those two executives from our opening scene. The difference between them wasn't in their bank accounts, but in their minds. One had built an inner fortress that no market crash could breach. The other had constructed a prison of golden bars. Which one will you be? The ancient Stoics left us a blueprint for not just surviving but thriving in a world obsessed with material success. Their wisdom, tested through centuries of wars, market crashes, and empire collapses, offers something far more valuable than mere investment advice. It offers psychological freedom. Remember, true wealth isn't measured by what you own, but by what owns you. Every time you check your portfolio, every time you make a financial decision, every time you feel that pull of material desire, you have an opportunity to practice this iron psychology of wealth. The choice is yours. Will you continue to be swept along by the currents of financial anxiety and material attachment? Or will you begin building that unshakable inner fortress that no market volatility can touch? If you found value in these ancient insights about wealth and prosperity, you're going to love our other explorations of Stoic wisdom. From mastering emotions to building unbreakable relationships, our channel delves deep into the practical application of Stoic principles in modern life. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. How do you maintain mental equilibrium in times of financial stress? What Stoic practices have you found most helpful in your own journey toward true prosperity? Your insights might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to join our growing community of modern Stoics. Together, we're rediscovering timeless wisdom for contemporary challenges. Until next time, remember the words of Epictetus: wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Now go forth and build not just your fortune, but your fortress.